And we are live. Welcome to the Power Hour, everybody. I'm Dan, your host, and this is my great co-host, Nicole.
Hi,
My
everybody.
daughter, well, yes. Hi, everybody. And tonight we are going to go with a particular theme, which I'll bring up in just a moment. But and one of the
Dogs are
we already
saying
got
hello.
comments from the Peanut Gallery, and
Yeah.
they're
Hi, Kimmy.
saying hi to everybody. Welcome to all of those of you who are watching on the recording. Let me just start off with letting everybody know what the purpose of our podcast is, and that is to help you get where you want to go in your life, right?
Yes.
And I don't know anybody that couldn't use a little more positivity in their life, even the dogs.
Yes.
So, and the dog's barking brings me right up to what our theme is tonight. And that is
Hi,
something.
Melly.
There's another one. There's Melly saying hi. Hi, sweetheart. Good to see you as well. So, the theme of our show tonight is control what you can control, right?
Doggy's quiet.
Control the dogs barking, right? Until we train them. But then you can't control your mind if it isn't controlled, if it isn't trained, right? So that's really about everything. And this saying came from an old boss of mine who was much younger than I, but he would say, control what you can control. And it's such a powerful little sentence, isn't it? When you really think about it. Because most of us human beings are control freaks, let's face it. Well, life is perfect as long as everything and everyone is doing exactly what we want them to do. Problem is, nobody follows along with that because they've got their own agenda as to what they want to control and what they want, how their picture of life should be, right?
Absolutely.
So that constant need to control can drive us absolutely crazy. And in fact, the matter is, it does drive us absolutely crazy because nothing in life continuously goes the way you want it to. And so we, not you, but we are constantly in a state of up and down and up and down and up and down. And life would be perfect if only this would happen and that would happen. And oh my God, I can't believe what she said. I can't believe what he did. I can't, all of this stuff, right? That just drives us crazy. And so we're going to get into more of that as we go along here this evening. And we're going to start with what I can't control and what you can't control. And that my daughter can't control. And that is her sciatica issue, right? Yeah. And so we are going to work our show tonight. We're scheduled for an hour and we'll go as long as we can go. But in the interest of her health and pain level, if it gets to where it's too uncomfortable for her, we're going to call it early. And I know you'll all understand, right? Am I right? Everybody understands? All right. We'll find it in comments here in a second. But
my grandma would have said, capiche?
Capiche? Yeah. So control what you can control. And it's difficult, isn't it? And Kimberly says, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. If we have to cut early, that'll be okay. And, life is always changing, isn't it?
Yes.
You just never know what the next second is going to bring. And if you can remember that in the course of the day, how much easier is the day going to go for you? Right? We try to control everything except for what we have total control over. Yeah.
So?
Yeah. Your attitude, your actions, your emotions, right?
Your reactions.
Yes, your reactions, your happiness or unhappiness, all of that is within our control. And yet we don't exercise that enough, do we?
No.
I have my days, I have my moments where,
What?
yeah, I know, right? Who would think? But the more you practice, it's like everything, right? You got to practice, but you also have to look at how's your form. It's like if you're throwing free throws and you're throwing it in the wrong form, if you're twisting your arm like this when you're trying to get the ball to go straight, odds are it's not going to go straight. And you can practice that all day long and it won't make any better difference.
Well, you're practicing a bad behavior too, or bad.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point, Nicole.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Is that, we have to, okay, so there's this program that we know about, right? And one of the things they talk about doing is inventories. And in the beginning of this journey that we go on in this particular program and really in life, we're pretty good at knowing all the things we're not so good at and all of the mistakes that we've made in our life and all of the couldas and shouldas and wouldas and all of the people we've hurt and all of the damage we've done and all of these things that are just gut-wrenching, and we can list them ad infinitum forever. We know every single one of those things.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And we grind on it, we grind on it, we grind on it. But ask them to list 10 things that they're good at or 10 things that they like about themselves. And it's hard, especially in the beginning of this journey of turning the ship around that we talk about quite often on our show, right? So you have to practice. You have to be aware that there's more than just the bad in you or the bad in me. Do I make mistakes? Daily. All day long, I make mistakes. I do my best not to, and I can go for a while and not make any mistakes, and everything's, hey, that's pretty good, right? And then, sure enough, I'll forget something, or I'll do something that'll be like, oh gosh, there I went again, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and you're laughing because you know exactly what I'm talking about, right?
That was my day in a nutshell. Oh,
Yeah.
Up.
Yeah. And when you're used to beating yourself up, now I know that nobody in our audience and nobody on our team right here has ever made mistakes. I mean, we just don't do that, right? And we never, ever beat ourselves up, right? Yeah. But we learn as we go through this journey. What we're talking about here is to be more gentle with yourself, right?
Yes.
We talk about how what's going on the inside of us is a direct reflection of what we're viewing on the outside. So if we're being really harsh with ourselves, I'll guarantee you're being harsh with somebody else.
Yeah.
If you're judging yourself, I'll guarantee you're judging other people. If you're unable to forgive yourself, you won't be able to forgive anybody else either. You may say, oh, I understand, but you're walking away going, oh, what an a-hole, right? No peace inside, right? What's that saying about no, I think the Christians use it, right? No Jesus, no peace. No Jesus, no peace.
No.
Like that, right? But it's kind of that way with knowing ourselves, right? Well, there's Jose. Hello, Jose. Welcome.
Hi.
To have you here. Hello, everybody. Yes, indeed. So control what you can control. It's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And the only thing we have total control over is ourselves if we're being conscious.
Yeah.
Right?
In the moment. Yes.
You have to be in the moment. Exactly right. You know, the more you're in the moment, the more you'll recognize when you make a mistake and make a correction, right? It's kind of like if you were wanting to go down the road and you wanted to turn right, but you turned left instead. Do you just continue to go left, or do you stop and turn around to go to the direction you wanted to go in?
You gotta readjust.
Right? And we have to do that same thing all day long. I love that analogy about the fact that when in the early days, and it's still that way today, but the early days of sending rockets up into space, they had to adjust the trajectory, the direction that the rocket was going in thousands of times to get it to where they wanted to go. They didn't just say, well, this is the course we picked, and by God, we're going to go that way, and we're not going to make any changes.
Yeah.
So you have to make change all the time. You have to be your own cashier, right? You got to make change.
Good point.
Yeah, right. So you'll gain so much more the quicker you can make those adjustments, right? When you have that morning where you wake up, like the other day, I don't know what it was, but I woke up and I was like, I wasn't connected to my body almost, right? It was almost like an out of body feeling for like half the day. I was working, I was doing the things I needed to do, but it just didn't feel connected, right? So I finally said, okay, that's it. Stop. Just take a few minutes, center, meditate for a few minutes, and just get that's what it was. I didn't feel grounded, right? So I stopped, and I recognized that I wasn't feeling connected the way that I like to feel. And so I took a few minutes to make an adjustment. The rest of my day went just fine. Now, in my Aries Ram mode of early years in my life, I would have busted through all day long just fighting it and resisting it, and I'll just struggle through it, right? But I've learned to, where is it? Let me get it up here. Here we go. Yeah, I've learned to control what I can control. Haven't mastered it. I'm not about to say that I've got this thing mastered, right? There's no mastery here, but there's continual improvement. And it was one of the things I reflected on. Again, we talked about how, like in this program thing, they have you do this inventory, and I've got that long list of all the things that I'm not very good at. And oh boy, and number 28. Oh my God, 28. Oh, geez. Right. But now it's where I spend more of my time looking at the things that pleases me, that I've done. And it's kind of like what you give energy to expands, right? We've all heard that saying. What you give energy to expands. So are you paying attention to what you're giving your energy to? Are you giving it? It's kind of like they talk about fear, right? If you're giving your energy to fear, what are you going to get back, right?
Fear, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get those things that you're afraid of, right? So control what you can control. Control your thinking. Are you allowing your mind to take you to neighborhoods you don't want to go into? Are you saying things about yourself and to yourself that you would never say to another human being? I used to do that all the time. That's what I talk about. The beatings will continue until your attitude improves, right? Until you change the way you talk about yourself and what you say to yourself. You're fighting a really hard fight, and it doesn't have to be that hard. I was talking to somebody just this morning who said that she was aware of the fact that she had nothing to complain about, and how nice that felt, right? And that's part of what we're talking about, right? If you are aware of the fact that there really isn't anything wrong in this moment. Again, going back to what Nicole said, we have to live in the moment, right?
Yes.
See that little book back there? It says your message matters. What message are you putting out there? Right? See it right there?
Yep.
Yeah. What is your message that you're putting out into the world? I was humbled about a week ago by one of the managers who was walking a new group of people into the store that they're going to hire. And she brought them up to my register and said to the group that this is Dan. He runs our front end here, and he's the kindest man you will ever meet. And I went, oh my God, now I'm going to have to pay her for that, right? And it's been a week of that where I had so many people comment on how much better I made their experience and how kind I was and I thought, oh my gosh, isn't that affirmation and confirmation of the way I want people to experience me, right?
Yeah.
I remember having a boss who was just really difficult to work with, right? And I said to some of the team members, I said, I would feel absolutely horrible if I made one person feel the way he's made this entire team feel. Why in the world would anybody do that if they were thinking about what they're doing? How, as a leader, do you expect people to want to fight in the trenches with you if he just spent a half an hour berating you, right? And yet I see that kind of management skill all the time. And again, it goes back to not being aware of what their actions produce, right? I've gotten confirmation over and over and over again that kindness matters.
Yes.
And by the way, I mentioned that song a week or two ago about in the end, only kindness matters. And I couldn't remember who did the song.
Oh, yeah.
It was Jewel.
Oh.
Yeah. So in the end, only kindness matters. That is something that you can control, right? It takes just a moment to think about how I'm going to respond or how I am going to react if I choose to be reactive, right? Mm-hmm. If I take that moment to be responsive, and if I'm clear about what I want, what the purpose of my reaction or my response is to be, then I can always manage a level of kindness, right?
Yes.
And do I exercise that every single time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Sometimes the guy walks by, leaves my counter, and I'm just thinking, geez, what an a-hole.
Not
right?
you.
Yeah, right? Because sometimes I'm not paying attention. Now, I have found that lately when somebody is behaving to me that way, I remind myself that I don't know what's going on in their life. Now, for me, that takes an extra level of effort, right? It takes an extra moment for me to, instead of feeling insulted or mistreated, I can recognize that I don't know what's going on in that person's life. And even if nothing is going on in their life, they're the ones that are in that misery, not me, unless I choose to participate in it, right?
Yes.
And then I'm giving away my power and my serenity and my happiness and my tranquility. I'm giving that away to somebody who has the opposite of that. I'm giving up my power. And it's kind of what I believe is meant by the feeling of powerlessness, right? Is that when we're really living rather unconsciously, we're not paying attention to how we can respond to somebody or to something, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we can have a car accident and we can think, oh, how horrible, my car is ruined, and all the negative stuff that would go on with that kind of an experience. Or we can say, thank God nobody got hurt. It's only a car that can be replaced. And there's an opportunity here for me to grow, which is true of any experience we go through in our life, right?
Yeah.
The greatest losses that we experience in life, the loss of a loved one, the loss of our homes, the loss of our finances, the losses of our health, all of those things are an opportunity for growth if we'll choose to look at it that way. Control what you can control. Determine whether you want to be a part of the success or a part of the failure, right? Of anything. I remember when the Twin Towers were destroyed, right? And I had a friend of mine who asked me, he said, isn't that the most horrible thing you've ever experienced? And I said, well, yeah, it's pretty horrific, no doubt. But there's good that comes from it. And I said, oh God, you and your positivity crap, right? What the heck is positive about all these people perishing in that moment, right? They didn't do anything to anybody to deserve that. As well, first of all, we don't know that this isn't a graduation for them. In fact, I would think that it is. They no longer have to deal with all the trials and tribulations of life, right? They can go on to the peaceful. Maybe this is just a graduation for them. And notice how much kinder people are being to each other because of this event, right? And how many people are thinking, you know what? I've spent all of my life worrying, and I'm realizing in this moment that I don't know what the next moment brings. So I refuse to ever worry again. Would that be a benefit of what would come out of an event like that? Of course it would, right? Mm-hmm. And so we all have to look at these things this way. I mean, you don't have to, right? You can go on thinking, I'm a victim. In fact, Kate and I were watching The Sopranos. We've got Max streaming service, right? So they've got the series The Sopranos on it. And Tony Soprano is talking to his therapist and talking about the fact that a woman that he was sleeping with got up to fix him breakfast, and her robe caught on fire, and she ended up in the hospital with severe burns all over her body. And so he's telling his psychiatrist this, and he gets all upset and says, "Why does terrible things always happen to me?" And haven't we all said that in different situations, right? Actually looking at somebody else's pain and being more concerned with how it affects us, right? And we all do it unless we get conscious, right? So, and we talk about this all the time too, Nicole, about how it takes a long time to turn that ship around, right? Mm-hmm. When you go from being, remember, I went from no self-esteem, horrible self-language, horrible, frustrations and, injuries and all those kinds of things, and had to turn that all around to have no self-esteem, to where I like Dan. He's a nice guy, right? Does he make mistakes? Absolutely. Would he do anything for you? Absolutely. Right? I'm here for you. I really am. So it takes time and it takes practice. And it really is important to surround yourself with positive, supportive people. Because the truth of the matter is, misery loves company.
Mm.
So if you find you have family members or friends or acquaintances or work co-workers or whatever who are constantly telling you you can't, or pointing out all the terrible things that are going on and all that kind of stuff, you have to take time and pull away from that. Pulling yourself to the positive can be a real challenge in the beginning because people are comfortable in their misery. And we don't like to pull away from it because it's what we're comfortable in, it's what we're used to, right? And those around us who are miserable won't feel comfortable with you pulling out and getting away from it either. But it's so important. It's critically important. If you're going to have any chance of happiness in your life, it isn't your spouse. It isn't your children. It isn't your job. It isn't your luck. It's not any of those things, right? And if we're pointing at that person being the problem, remember that old thing about if you got one finger pointed that way, you got three pointing back at you, right?
Yep.
The problem isn't anyone or anything. It's us. It's our thinking. It's our emotions. It's our unwillingness to control what we can control, right? So like probably one of the very first things you really need to pay attention to is, what are you trying to control?
Mm.
Are you living in the moment? Is your mind racing? You have to be aware of these things. Have you ever been around somebody who you could tell instantly his mind is racing like crazy? Have you ever
Yeah.
seen someone like that? Yeah. I mean, it frankly, nowadays, it makes me a little uncomfortable to be around someone like that because it's kind of like being around a speed freak, right? And you can feel that energy, that chaoticness that's going on inside of them, right? And it gives me great compassion for them because I remember what it felt like to be like that, right? But it's just like the person that's living in that huddled mass, living in quiet desperation, right? That person that's living in that quiet desperation, you've seen it. You've felt it. You've been there, right?
Yep.
Every single one of us has been in that quiet desperation mode and know how lonely it feels, how desperate it feels, how depressing it feels. It's absolutely awful. So here we got, I got to check out our chat room here and see what's going on. Oh, we've got a long one here from Melly. I learned this weekend that I'm tired of being sick and tired. I started a weight loss journey to manage my RA, which is rheumatoid arthritis, right? And to get off meds. So far, it's been helping with my pain. I feel so much better. I still take my meds, but stopped taking prednisone. Best decision I ever made. And I remember a doctor that we had when we first moved to Murrieta. His name was Saul Mendelson. And Saul Mendelson was an amazing practitioner. You'd walk into his office and he'd be wearing cowboy boots and Levi's and a plaid shirt and sometimes even a cowboy hat, right? And Dr. Mendelson was obviously Jewish, right? Which I found kind of interesting that he'd be a cowboy, but hey, whatever, right? but he also was a smoker. And I thought, Saul, and I even said to him, I said, Saul, you're a doctor. What are you smoking for? He said, well, I've done it my whole life. And one day, Kate and I went in to see him, and the office is strangely quiet. And I said, what's going on? Where's the doctor? He says, he passed away this week. Yesterday, I guess it was like the day before, right? They tell me the story that he, about a month earlier, he had decided he wasn't feeling real great. And he decided to quit smoking. And he started to lose some weight. And anyone in the medical profession will tell you that if you think you're having a heart attack, don't drive yourself to the hospital. Get an ambulance because they've got the equipment to help in case something goes bad, right? Saul has his son drive him to the hospital. And he died. Right? So, we can have all the best advice and all the best knowledge in the world, but if we don't use it for ourselves, it isn't going to turn out very well, right? And it didn't turn out well for Saul. But he was so much fun to work with. And one day, when I turned 50, we did a 50,000.
A long time ago, right?
Centuries ago, yeah. We did a 50,000-mile checkup. And so he's got all these tests, and he's looking at my chart, and he goes, oh my God. I said, what? He said, come around here. I want to show you. I want you to read this. So I come around to his side of the desk, and we're looking at the paperwork, and he says, see these numbers here? All of your numbers are in what we call the perfect range. Every single one of them. How do you do that? And I said, well, I have been a vegetarian for a long time. He goes, oh, God, you vegetarians, right? What can I say, right? So it's that kind of thing. Here was a doctor who knew things that he was doing that weren't working, that weren't good for his health, right? It's like if you have arthritis. In fact, I noticed that if I have a bowl of ice cream or anything with sugar in it, my fingers hurt more. Right? And that was what made me think of Saul, was that one day he asked me, I mentioned my knee hurt or something and whatever it was. And he says, so how much sugar are you eating? And of course I'd say, oh, not much, yeah, right. So, we all need to pay attention, right? Just like Melly's saying here, I've started a weight loss journey to manage my RA and get off meds. Well, the healthier you eat, the healthier you think, the healthier you become, right? It's just...
Way to go, Melly.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's learning to control what she can control.
Yeah.
So that was a powerful sentence for you tonight, wasn't it? See how things work? You never know what's going to come up next, right? So if we can decide that we're going to start living in the moment more and more and more, it's a practice. You're not going to perfect it overnight. In fact, I don't know if you'll ever perfect it. But I can promise you that it'll get better and better and better the more you practice it, right? And so Melly learning to control what she can control, again, the only thing we have total control over is ourselves. And the easiest way of controlling that is practicing being in the moment.
Yes.
So for all of us watching live, and if you're watching the broadcast of our show, take a moment right now and think about what's wrong this very moment. Oh, it's gone. Right? Our life is a series of moments. The next moment is not guaranteed to any of us. The last moment's already gone. We can't change it. right? And how many moments have already gone by since we started talking about this, right? But we'll get so wrapped up in what we think is wrong and what we think is bad, and it's that judging that we do of what's good and what's bad, and oh my God, what's going to happen if I can't do this? And what that we've all done, we all do to some degree, right? We want to minimize that. Stay here. Stay in the moment. I have a dear friend who has a mind that just drives him crazy. And he would talk about how he had to learn to stay in the 24 hours. That's way too long for you. You need to stay in the moment, right? 24 hours. Oh my God, that's an awful long time to try to stay into, right?
Yeah.
But if you can try to just stay in the moment, it'll get much better, right?
Yes.
But it's difficult. And that's why, for those, we almost every month seems like it's mental health month, right? And it really should be, and it really should be talked about even more, right? But if you're finding that no matter how hard you try to stay positive, you just can't, and that mind has just got you in a really bad place, don't suffer too long, right? Get some help. Get some help. Then practice the things we're talking about. Because if you're trying to fix a broken mind with a broken mind, how far do you think that's going to get you, right? Yes, all of the things that we talk about on our show and all of the, good wishes of family and friends and all of those things can be helpful. But if as hard as you try to make things work and your mind just keeps telling you you're a loser and you can't seem to shake that thing, then maybe it's time for some professional help. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's no shame in that. The shame is when you don't do it and you end up doing something really stupid because of it, right? We don't want anyone doing that. Look, the truth of the matter is we're all children of God.
Yes.
Right? We all have that spark inside ourselves, that divine energy of God. And with that energy and operating from our soul instead of from our mind, the mind can then become our servant, and it can help us in many, many ways. But we have to get the direction straight, right? It's supposed to be you, your soul, and your mind, not the other way around, not mind, me, and my soul. Most of us don't even know we have a soul and would never even think about it, right? So, but you are soul, and soul is love, and that's what you are. And that's what's important in life is love. All the other stuff it's just stuff, right? And as Joel said, in the end, only kindness matters. Only love has that power. Kindness comes from love, doesn't it? Right?
Yes.
You can't be criticizing people and be kind, right? If you can be understanding that someone's having a bad day, and I remember I had one guy that was being particularly coarse, right? And as he's walking away, I said, "Sir, I hope the rest of your day is kind." Right? So I didn't have to criticize him. I didn't have to. In fact, I could wish him well, right? That's much more powerful than me going, what an a-hole, right? And it's, right? I could have some influence, perhaps, on the rest of his day being a little nicer. And again, I don't know what he's going through. I don't know how much pain my poor daughter's in right now, right? She seems to be doing pretty good, and she's pretty good at holding it, and just kind of working through it. But, I don't know, right? But I know she's going to raise her hand if it gets to where it's too much and you can't deal with it, right?
Yeah, I think we're nearing there.
All right. You're ready to quit? We'll quit. Are you wanting to do that?
I think we're Good. Yeah.
All right, folks. So in support of my beautiful daughter, and who I hate to see in pain, but we all get some, right? Before we leave, Nicole, if you could see anybody today and they don't have a smile, what could you do?
Give them one of mine.
And why would you do that?
Because they're free and they feel good.
And they
It
make
makes me
you feel good, and they make them feel good, right?
Yeah.
And it's that spread of positivity that helps everyone so much. So until next week, everybody be kind to yourselves, right? And Kimberly, yes, we all love you, and we love you all, absolutely.
And Charlie and Pedro and Melinda and Jose and Lauren
yes,
and
everybody
Luke and
watching,
Cheryl and Coconut and
yes,
Aurora.
exactly.
Everybody else that I've missed.
Yes, well, we love everybody, even I won't even say that. Anyway, we love everybody. So take care. Nicole, I love you. Take care. I hope you feel better quick, and we'll see you all again next week. Goodbye for now. See you soon. Take care.